Chapter 11, Part 3. Plunkett gave Daniel a sideways look and sucked on his teeth. I know what you're driving at. You think I stole Johnny from the folk stories, threw a mask on him, and called him mine, don't you? Daniel opened his mouth to come up with an excuse, but nothing came out. Unexpectedly, Plunkett just laughed. Guilty as charged, but you gotta understand that it was just what folks did back then. Comics became a big business practically overnight, and there was a craziness to get in on the action. And being that I was from Noble's Green, I felt that I had some right to tell stories about him. Daniel nodded. So it was true. Johnny Noble was just a stolen legend, the money-making scheme of a desperate young artist. The comics weren't the true-life accounts of a secret hero or the hidden clues to the mystery of a small group of superchildren. Daniel's only lead had just hit a dead end. Plunkett must have mistaken Daniel's obvious dejection for something else, because he reached up to the same shelf that the Sherlock Holmes book rested on, and brought down a dusty old folder. Tell you what, son, since you came all this way, and since I'm impressed that anyone even remembers Johnny Noble in this day and age, I'm going to give you a present. He used the sleeve of his sweater to dust off the portfolio and hand it to Daniel. Inside, neatly laminated, were the original pencil drawings from Fantastic Futures starring Johnny Noble. There was no ink or color, and the dialogue was missing in places, but Plunkett's original pencil drawings were still breathtaking. His talent was undeniable, even back then. This was quite a treasure, and even though Daniel didn't find the answers he was looking for, this gift still touched him. Thank you, he said, and he meant it. Now, if I see those popping up for sale on that internet of yours, I'll be mighty disappointed, said Plunkett, wagging his finger. They won't, I promise. All right then, you better run along now. It's past my nap time, and old Nurse Hardbuttle out there gets mean when I miss my nap. But I'm glad you came by, my boy. You give an old man a nice walk down memory lane. And remember, enjoy those sketches. They're one of a kinds. Back in his room, Daniel lay on his bed and stared at the ceiling, depressed. The trip to Plunkett's house had been a failure, and Daniel would have to report back to Rome that all his detecting had turned up nothing more than some cool sketches. He had to admit, he was stumped. After a time, the boredom finally got to Daniel, and he went to his desk and opened Plunkett's portfolio. As he flipped through the pages of Johnny in action, he comforted himself with the knowledge that Eric, at least, would love this stuff. Here were the original drawings of Johnny lifting tanks, dodging bullets in midair, and fighting for honesty and decency. Eric would treasure them, at least for the few weeks that he had left to be a kid. He was about a third of the way through the sketches when he saw it, the cover illustration of the issue number 77. Heart pounding, hands shaking, he went to his backpack and searched through his stack of comics. 74, 75, 76. Daniel went back and looked again at the cover of the issue 77, the first of the missing magazines, laid out before him. The cover featured a nighttime scene, a sleeping boy next to an open window. Outside the window, Johnny Noble was swooping down out of the sky. In the room, reaching for the boy's sleeping form, was a shadow that Daniel had seen before, a shadow with a heart of fire. The banner across the top of the page read, Introducing Johnny Noble's trusty new sidekick and his diabolical arch-enemy, both in this one fantastic issue. But will Johnny be too late to save his new friend from the terrible hands of the Shroud? The Shroud. Breathless, Daniel sat back in his chair. Their enemy now had a name. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please hit the thumbs up. And subscribe if you would like to see when I get new audiobooks.